Hi everyone, it's Meredith with Soulnavigation, and I am so happy to have you here with me. We're going to continue this with Robin Williams' chart. What we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through the houses, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to show you the houses differently. This is a two-part series. Actually, it's longer than that because you really need to go watch the video that I just did before this, Astrology 101, How to Read Your Birth Chart. And this is number 2 in my series. I'm going to show you the houses a little bit differently. I'm going to show you how they are chunked out, how they are pieced out. If you have a lot of planets on the top half of your chart, what does that mean? We're going to go into all of it today, and it's going to be so exciting. Stick with me till the end. Also, we're going to continue with Robin Williams' chart, but I want to know from you, who do you want me to do next week? Because I'll do who you want me to do. I want a collective majority here. So leave me a comment below and let me know. Would you like Jeffrey Epstein's chart done? Would you like to look at him? How about Britney Spears or Prince or Meghan Markle, Kobe Bryant? Who are you intrigued by? Whose chart do you want me to use next time? Today, again, we're going to use Robin Williams in the second segment of my series for beginning astrologers. But I really want all people to be able to see how they can use astrology in their own life to predict good days and challenging days, and to understand their children and their lovers and their mate and themselves. I want astrology to be used as a tool to be able to deeply, deeply understand who you are as a human being and what you need. So let's go in and dive deep. Okay, here we are again with Robin Williams' chart. The first thing that I want to tell you is this. We're going to look at the chart a little bit differently. And next week, I'm going to go through each and every house. But the houses are complicated, and the only way you can know the houses in your chart is if you know your birth time. So your birth time is critical because it sets up this rising sign. This line right here is your rising sign. This is the degree, and this is the minutes. We can see that Robin Williams was born 55 minutes into the sign of Scorpio rising because he's 0 degrees, 55 minutes. So he's not even yet 1 degree. He is so on the cusp that if somebody didn't handle his birth right, they could have his birth time wrong. However, I do think he is a 0 degree Scorpio rising. So we're going to go with it. So houses are right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Houses are never the same exact size. Sometimes a house is really big. Sometimes a house contains up to 3 signs. Sometimes a house contains 1 sign. And sometimes a house contains 2 signs. Don't get preoccupied by that. It's important to know, though, that houses just represent the different constellations and how the perspective was at the time you were born. So right now with Robin Williams' chart, we're looking at the universe through the prism of Chicago, Illinois. So from Chicago, at the time he was born at 1:34 p.m. in the afternoon, right? This line right here is 12 noon. This line right here is 12 midnight. This line right here is 6 a.m. This line right here is 6 p.m. This is like a big clock. So he was born just after 12 noon, and he had Scorpio rising. Not all houses are the exact same size, nor do all houses land exactly, do the doorways land exactly at the beginning of each sign. You may be a 15 degree Scorpio rising. So that would go from 15 degrees Scorpio rising to 15 degrees Sagittarius rising, because the houses are approximately 30 degrees each. So because he is a 0 degree Scorpio, we're pretty darn close. See, they're approximately, not exactly 30 degrees. It just depends on where you live and your perspective of the universe from where you're at. It's not always going to be the same. Your chart is going to look very differently than this chart, but I want to use this chart as an example because it is a good one to use. Again, this is going to be a little bit of a different take for you, but I like doing truthful and unusual examples for you because I want you to truly learn. I want you to truly understand how to use astrology as a tool for yourself. If you have a lot of planets above the horizon, that's right here. If you have a lot of personal planets, that's the sun, that's the moon, that's Mercury, Venus, and Mars. If you have those planets, a lot of those planets, especially the sun up here, that is very critical. We call that the southern hemisphere. I know that looks like it's the north, but it is the southern hemisphere. Don't get caught up on technicalities and details. It's just if you have planets between the 7th and the 12th, you are here to focus on the interconnection of yourself to other people, to society as a whole, to yourself inside of how you operate with your society's value system, who you are in the world. How are you different? What did God create as a whole? And who am I in that entity? Okay. Generational planets are going to be Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. Personal planets are the sun and Mars and the moon and Venus and Mercury. Let me just explain this to you. He's got the sun above, right? He's got the sun above the horizon and he has the moon below. When you have the sun in one and the moon in the other, that's a 50-50 split because there is nothing more personal in the chart than the moon. And the sun is your identity. The sun and the moon, I would say, is a 50-50 split. But he has Jupiter right here, down here below, but he has most of the planets above the horizon. This is the horizon. So there's a greater emphasis around who he is in the world. If you have a lot of planets between the 1st and the 6th house, these are the personal houses. You're mostly concerned with the development of your individual identity and the requirements of your basic needs in this world. Now, it doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you are focused through self-development. You are here to grow a separate identity from consensus. Now, if you have your planets 7th through the 12th, you're here to understand society. One is not better than the other. If you're like Robin Williams, where you have the sun in this arena above and you have your moon below, you are operating in two worlds equally. If you have some planets down here, but most planets up here, especially the personal planets, there's an emphasis around understanding your place within society, within the culture that you're growing up in. You could say this is extroversion and this is introversion. However, I want to be careful with that. It is not about self-expression. It's about, do you have an external vantage point or an internal vantage point? And I tell you this because most of my chart, not all of it, but most of it and all my personal planets are below the horizon. But I am a true extrovert. However, I am deeply, deeply focused on the individual. Now, I have planets in the top half of the chart, and I keep my eye on the ball on society, and it's very critical to me. But the emphasis is, in my practice, is on self-development, not necessarily just mine, but on yours too. I like to connect deeply to the internal wounds of an individual. So think about it this way. This is 1 through 6 intimacy. Intimate deep secret work, the stuff you cannot see. So this is the intangible world, hopes, dreams, courage, wisdom, and this is the things you can see. Very important for you to know. And Robin Williams had one foot in each world. Let's talk about the quadrants. The quadrants are very, very interesting. If you have your planetary placements, mostly between houses 1 and 3, if you have a lot of personal planets, your sun, your moon, your Mercury, your Venus, your Mars, tell me what you have there, okay? This is about deep, deep, deep self-development. I mean, this is about a person who needs to develop self. They need to develop their value system. They're in touch with their physicality. They need to express and communicate. So if you have your planets here, this is a lifetime that is about yourself and your survival in this world. Your resources, your speech, your conversation, and your physical essence. And this lifetime is very seriously about you. If you have your planets between the 4th, 5th, and 6th house, your personal planets, again, your sun, your Mercury, your moon, your Mars, or your Venus, this is about self-expression. This is about you feeling. This is a very sensitive placement. This is a very creative placement. And this is about developing self-expression. Do you have prominent planets there? And I'm not talking Pluto, I'm not talking Saturn, I'm talking about personal planets. 1 through 3, self-development. 4, 5, and 6 is about self-expression. How will you put yourself out there in the world? How will you show yourself, be yourself, express yourself, convey yourself to others? It's really critical. Okay, houses 7 through 9. This is really interesting because people with a lot of personal planets here will create self-expansion. And self-expansion is you connecting into other people, you creating relationships with others. How will you do this? How will you put yourself out there? These are very social creatures. Now, if you have an 8th house packed filled with personal planets, you might be shy to do so. You're not necessarily going to stand on a stage, but intimacy and intimate relationships are absolutely critical to your self-development, right? So 7, 8, and 9, if you have a lot of personal planets there, which Robin does, is about expansion, expanding yourself, throwing yourself out there on the stage of life and inside relationships. Now, if you have 10 and 11 and 12, these people focus on transcendence. This is where we go when we develop way beyond the self, where we live in the ether zone of other life creatures. It does include self, and it includes self-development and self-expression and self-expansion, and it creates a higher consciousness regarding all living beings. So when you're born with the 10th and 11th and 12th, these are people who want to put good energy out there in the world for all living creatures. Okay, let's go a layer deeper. This is so critical for you to know. If you don't know this first, the houses won't make sense to you. If I just went through 1 through 12, you wouldn't understand the depth of the meaning of the houses. You need to know the social houses. You need to know how the houses are chunked out. So let's talk about this. The angular houses. It's very important that you know this. If you take nothing away from this video, accept this. This is the most important thing for you to know. If you have planets, and this doesn't matter what planets you have, personal planets or outer planets, You now know the personal planets are the sun, your soul, the moon, the deepest, deepest, deepest part of you. It is the visceral essence of you. Stephen, my mentor, calls the moon the soul and the sun the identity. So think of the moon as the buried treasure inside of you. I got chills just saying the moon. So are you a sun sign person or a moon sign person? Do you resonate with the depth of you, or do you resonate with the personality and the essence of you? I'm kind of both. But when push comes to shove, if you don't touch my moon, I probably can't go there for real without you. And I wonder if you feel the same way about yourself. Or are you okay if somebody just gets your persona, get your personality? How do you feel about that? Are you a sun person or a moon person? It's really an interesting question. They're both vitally important because the sun is your vitality. And without that, I would have no life, right? But my moon is the intimate part of me. And without that, I would have no life. So the sun and the moon are critical. That's why they're personal planets. You really can't live without each other, but which one dominates you? And then Mercury is your mind. It's your perception. It's the way I am speaking to you. It's why some people don't like the way I talk. It's why some people are critical. And so how is your Mercury? That's your communication. That's a personal planet. Then your Venus, that's the way you love. Those are your creature comforts, if you will. What makes you feel like life is sweet and beautiful and lovely? What tastes good to you? That's your Venus working. And then Mars, that's your sexual expression, your animation, your chi, your life force energy, right? Who would you be if you had no animation at all? Right? So the people who can dance, they've got strong Mars. They have Mars that work. People who can't dance, their Mars is in conflict, okay? Those are the personal planets. So when I talk about personal planets, those are innately you. The other planets, that's Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. Those planets are generational. Now, they matter in your chart and they are very, very important. But when I talk about personal planets, I want you to know what I'm talking about. So it is the sun through Mars. So if you have any planet, not just personal planets, on the angular houses, this matters dramatically. I can't say it loud enough. I can't be Mars enough. I can't be sun sign enough about how important it is. If you have any planet on an angle, that's why the houses are so, so critical. Let's talk about this. So what are the angular houses? Right here. The angular houses are the first house, the fourth house, the seventh house, and the 10th house. Okay? Now hold on. What are the angles? Those are the houses. Those planets are prominent. They are prominent, prominent, prominent. So if you've got personal planets in those houses, the first, the fourth, the seventh, or the 10th, those are so critical. You have so much power in your chart. I almost don't have words for it, but hold on one second. Hold on one second. It's critical if you have planets, especially personal planets in those houses. Tell me if you do, but it's even more potent. So your water is simmering, not boiling, but your water boils if you've got personal planets that sit within 10 degrees of the angle. What am I talking about? This. Robin Williams is 0 degrees Scorpio. If he had a planet, and he doesn't because that's 16 degrees prior, so if he had a planet 10 degrees above or 10 degrees below, so 10 degrees Scorpio or 20 degrees Libra, right? Because each sign is 30 degrees. Let's look at the fourth house. He doesn't have that. Do you? down here, this angle, this house, right? This is the cusp to the fourth house. So I talked about the first house, the fourth house, the seventh house, and the 10th house, but you have to look at the cusps. It's awesome if you just want to be easy and say, hey, I got a planet in the fourth house. Awesome. He has his moon there. It's at 8 degrees Pisces. That's awesome. But if that moon was sitting on the fault line, which is 0 degrees, 55 minutes Scorpio, 7 degrees, 10 minutes Aquarius, 0 degrees, 55 Taurus, and 7 degrees Leo, 10 minutes, that's a fault line. That is so potent, that is so dynamic, because the angular houses are our activators. They activate the entire chart. They generate change, they generate energy, and they are lightning bolts. So how close are you to the lightning bolt? How close? How close is your sun to this first house, this fourth house, this seventh house, or this 10th house? That matters. Now, if you have planets in the angular houses, it is dynamic. It is crazy big. It is so important, because that is generating energy. That is activating energy. That is energy that is explosive. That is like a stick of dynamite. How close is the stick of dynamite to the fault line, right? To the match, to the propane gas tank. So that's what I'm asking. And so you don't really need it that close. So the fact that he has his moon in the fourth house right here is huge. It's enormous. It's gigantic. He's got his heart in Pisces, which is gargantuan energy, in an angular house. And that's no small thing. He leads with his heart. But that's how potent the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th are. And so if you are a 10th house sun, if you are a 10th house moon, if you are a 7th house sun, if you are a fourth house sun, if you have your Mars in the fourth, your Mars in the seventh, if you have a personal planet in the first, the fourth, the seventh, or the 10th, this is high velocity. This is potent as hell. This is so much energy. You probably don't know what to do with yourself. These angular houses create energy at a gargantuan level. And if you are a person who has a packed house of first, 4, 7, and 10, especially of personal planets, please, 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 dear God, I want to know you. Because you must feel never satisfied with anything that you ever do. You must be sort of a semi-tortured soul in ambition and in goodness. You must be a Lady Gaga or a superstar in your own right, and yet you still struggle. Because those are the houses of ambition and hunger and like, I've got to make something of myself. And so if you have personal planets there, you probably will. You probably will. If you've got your Neptune there, you dream of it. If you have your Pluto there, you self-sabotage. If you've got your Jupiter there, you've got good luck on your side, like magic happens. If you have your Saturn there, you probably work hard enough to manifest it, right? If you have your Uranus there, you're probably Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. I have to look at their charts. But are you with me? Do you get me? Do you understand what I'm saying? I hope so. You want to really know the degrees that those angular cusps start at. Because when the sun, today's sun, transits or hits those angular degrees, the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th, that's when life creates opportunities for you. That's when you have a spark. That's when you want to time events. And so it's really important to know your transits. And if you don't know what that looks like, you should actually order my 365 yearly horoscope forecasting report. And you can go on my website, soulnavigation.com, and you can order that. And it will just tell you basically your daily horoscope made especially for your chart. And it will track those transits for you so you can know when those great opportunities are for you. And it's just amazing how truthful it actually is. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, let's talk about the succedent houses. Now, the succedent houses follow the angular houses and they kind of do their bidding. But have you ever been a really dynamic person that had a sidekick or somebody who, because I've got one, and I love her to pieces, and she helps ground me, and she helps me actually put my big ideas into action, and she concretizes me. Do you know what I mean by that? If you know what I mean by concretize, tell me who does that for you. Because it's somebody who creates cement out of your vision, right? Somebody who puts your idea, right? Your conceptual idea, your hope, your dream, your wish, this concept into manifestation. She manifests it, or he manifests it into form. That is the succedent houses. Let's talk about those. Those houses are the 2nd, the 5th, and the 8th, and the 11th. And by the way, the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, and the 11th, these are no small houses. These houses do the work of the creative visionaries of the angular houses. Do not speak poorly of the succedent houses. Succession, they succeed, they're secondary, they're behind, but they're not. Because they actually, and this is where I'm different, this is where I'm a myth buster, this is where I'm going to tell you what every book and every article you read on the internet, because we don't do sun sign astrology, right? No, we don't. Tell me we don't do sun sign astrology. When I get these comments on my page like, I'm a Scorpio and this is BS, I'm like, we don't do sun sign astrology here. We do the entire chart. We are beyond that. We are so complex and so multidimensional that when I get a comment like, I'm a Pisces and I don't relate to this video at all, I'm like, that's because you're Virgo rising, right? So telling you that it's very complex. And if you want to be smart, and if you want to be astute, and if you want to really use astrology as a tool, you have to deepen your knowledge and stick with me, because I will help you. I want every person on the planet to understand the tool and the resources they have through this modality. And the truthfulness of it has blown my mind. I can have a reading tonight, and I've done this for 25 years, and it will still blow my mind because it will take me deeper and farther than I could even go. Going back to the succedent houses, if you have your personal planets in the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, or the 11th, you are not small potatoes. Just because you're not an angular house doesn't mean you are less than. You are going to make matter of those houses. So if you have your personal planets, and not even your personal planets, any planets in those houses, you are going to be fixed in who you are. You are going to have a firm value system. You are going to believe in wrong and right. You're going to have a high sense of integrity. You are going to be activated in implementing a plan. You will be grounded and rooted, and you will build the empire. You are the builders. So do you want to be the activators, or do you want to be the builders, or do you want to be both? They're both critical, and one is not better than the other. If you're just a builder and you have no vision, what are you going to build? If you are a visionary and an activator and a builder, how cool is that? Let's keep going. Okay, I'm pulling Robin's chart back up here because he has a lot of cadent houses. So we talked about angular, succeedent, and now we're talking about the cadent houses. The cadent houses are 3, 6, 9, and 12. And 3, 6, 9, and 12, are really interesting. He has Jupiter. Wherever you have Jupiter, by the way, is where your house is going to be exaggerated. It's going to be enormous. It's going to be so freaking big that it might even take over your whole entire chart. So my Jupiter in the house that it's in dominates my entire personality. It happens to also be on my ascendant. But I want you to know where Jupiter is, it is giant. So Jupiter is no small thing to play with. And it's not a personal planet, but it is your highest potential. It's who you can be at your highest, very best, enormous, incredible self. So where's Jupiter in your chart? And I'll do a whole nother, if you want a video on Jupiter and your very best self, let me know. Let me know. Put a comment below. And if enough people really want it, I'll do it. In my next video, though, I want to tell you, I'm going to take you all the way through 1 through 12 houses, which a lot of people on YouTube have done, and you can go watch their stuff and you'll get, the first house about the body, the second house about your money, third house about communication, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to give you, and I want to continually give you, something that is so authentic and so true and so necessary. And it's like the deeper side of astrology. It's deep astrology here. So I wanted to chunk it out for you. And I hope this helps, and I want to know if you can relate. So let's keep going. Okay, so the third house, the sixth house, the ninth house, and the 12th house are so important. These are the cadent houses. And you can see that Robin, while he doesn't have any planets in his house, in the third house, which, by the way, let's talk, side note, there are no empty houses. If you look at this chart, you would say he's a predominantly ninth house person. He has 2 personal planets there, plus Uranus conjunct Mars. That's why he is who he is, by the way, this aspect for advanced astrologers. If you're not advanced, don't worry about it. What is Cadent? I hope I can pay homage and tribute to the Cadent houses and the people who have mostly cadent houses. And if you do, leave me a comment below. I want to know you. Now, you're not going to find this in a book. I have learned this over 110,000 readings. I have a private practice and I do readings all day long when I'm not doing these videos. The cadent houses are special to me because these are the people that don't sit down. These are the people who are perpetually multitasking. These are the people who are in perpetual movement. I'm a cadent house person, and the longest time I ever sit down is sitting here talking to you. The angular houses create energy, and the circadian houses actually concretize or make those dreams concrete. And what do the cadent houses do? They actually disseminate the energy. They move it through society, through life. They network it. They actually change and reorganize the original mission. So the angular house and the cadent house don't always get along, but they need each other. So these are the people that disseminate the energy. They reorganize the energy. They are the multitaskers. They are the doers. They are flexible. They are bendable. They are kind of the communicators. So think of the third. the 6th, the 9th, and the 12th. These are the talkers. These are the movers and the shakers and the networkers and the doers and the goers, and they don't sit still. They do not sit still. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I watched a movie was forever ago. I'm a Cadent house person. So is your chart angular with the most personal planets in angular houses, or is it circadian, or is your chart Cadent? Tell me how your chart lines up, because that will tell me. You don't even need to know your houses to know your motivations. So go with me right now, the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th. Those are the people that create the vision, the plan, the idea, and they have a doing attitude. They put the goal in place. Is that you? That's all you need to know. Or do your primary planets, and I'm mostly talking primary personal planets. That is the sun, the moon, Mercury, Mars, and Venus. That's what we're talking about. Or are you the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, and the 11th? Those are the builders. Those are the people that are going to make the plan, the vision, the dream, the goal concretized. They are the builders. Without them, we are not grounded. We have no business plan. We can't even make life function. We can't materialize our dream. It just stays a dream. Or are you a 3rd, 6th, 9th, or 12th house where you network and you market and sell the idea or the vision or the goal? So are you the visionary? Are you the builder? Are you the marketer? None of them can live without any of them. So the truth is like we need all people, and none is better than the other, right? None is better than the other. So I want to go into another aspect of how we can break out the chart, because it's really important that you see the chart as a whole. And in my next video, I'm going to go through houses 1 through 12 and what they mean. But right now, I want to talk about the fire trinity of spirit. And the fire of trinity of spirit is the 1st house, the 5th house, and the 9th house. Because in the natural zodiacal wheel, not in your chart, but in the natural zodiacal wheel, the 1st house is ruled by Aries, the 5th house is ruled by Leo, and the 9th house is ruled by Sagittarius. And it is so critical for you to remember this. So if you have personal planets in the 1st, the 5th, or the 9th, I want you to know that they take on the flavor of fire. If you've got planets in the 1st, they take on the flavor of Aries. And you know this from my last video, I'll link it above, on how to read your horoscope. It is so important that you remember this, okay? Try to memorize this. If you've got personal planets in the 1st, they act like Aries. Even if it's Scorpio or Gemini or Virgo, it doesn't matter what it is. There is an undercurrent of Aries. And if you've got planets, any planets in the 5th, there's an undercurrent or an undertone of Leo. And if you have planets in the 9th, there's an undercurrent of Sagittarius. So in Robin Williams' chart, he's got all these planets in Cancer, which is nothing, absolutely nothing in common with Sagittarius. But the 9th house is ruled, it's owned, it's bossed by the flavor of Sagittarius. So he is a Cancerian Sagittarius. So this is the trinity of fire. The 1st, the 5th, and the 9th. The 1st is Aries, the 5th is Leo, and the 9th is Sagittarius. And you need to blend the two to understand the depth of your soul. And that's why we don't do, let's say it together, sun sign astrology. Okay, the Earth trinity of matter And matter means we concretize, we make something of, right? And so we've got the 2nd and the 6th and the 10th. And the 2nd house is owned naturally by the zodiacal wheel, naturally, of Taurus. It doesn't matter what you have there. Blend your sign with the sign of Taurus into each other and mix them up together, and that's what you get. So if you've got personal planets in the 2nd house, they're going to take an undercurrent or a flavor of Taurus. If you've got them in the 6th house, they're going to have an undercurrent or an undertone. Think of watercolor painting here, not sun sign black and white astrology, but we're doing watercolors. Blue and red make purple, right? In the 6th house, blend it with Virgo energy. So go watch all my Virgo videos. If you've got your sun in the 6th house and it's in Scorpio, you better be watching my Virgo videos. And the 10th house of the natural zodiacal wheel of Capricorn. Let's go through them together. That is the earth trinity of matter. So this is the natural energy of each house that you have to blend with whatever sign you personally have with your chart. You can only know that if you know your birth time. I'm sorry, so sorry, so sorry. My heart breaks. I cry for people who don't know their birth time. Go interview your aunts and uncles and the people that were involved at your birth or knew your mother at the time you were born and figure out when you were born. And if you don't know, send me an email, set up an hour to 2-hour appointment, and we will figure it out. But your birth time is essential. It's critical. It gets so good. You guys, don't give up. Do not give up. Do not give up. It's going to get easier. Stick with me. I'm going to teach you this for the rest of my life. So stick with me. Subscribe. I want to get to 20,000 subscribers, and I hope you'll be one of them if you aren't already. Let's move on to the Trinity of relationships. That's the 3rd house, the 7th house, and the 11th house. These are the social networking houses, and these are the houses that connect people to others. So if you're a 3rd, a 7th, or a 10th house personal planet person, right? The sun through Mars, you are a social networker, because the 3rd house, natural zodiacal wheel of Gemini, the 7th house, relationships, and the 11th house, friendships. Wow, you naturally are inclined to other people. And that's important for you to know. Let me know below if you are a relationship person. The Trinity of relationships are the air signs, and it's really interesting. The Trinity of the soul are the water sign houses, and that's the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th. And the 4th is an angular house. As you know, that's that vitality. The 8th, that's the Cadent, that's the builder. And the 12th is the Cadent, the flexible negotiator, networker, 12th house. The 4th house is naturally ruled by, count down here, your cheat sheet, Cancer. The 8th house, count down here, Scorpio, 8th house. And the 12th house is, count down here, the last house, Pisces. Now blend your sign in the 4th house, the 8th house, and the 12th house, if you have it, with the natural energy of that house, and you will understand yourself more deeply. So if you're a fire sign Sagittarius and you're sitting in the 8th house, you know you're a builder because it's a Cadent house. You know that you are a fire sign in a water house. You know you're a fire sign in the house of Scorpio, and you're a Sagittarius, so you have to take this bombastic, fabulous energy that you have that's fiery, and you have to put it in the depths of Scorpio, right? And then you make yourself a builder, and you will see yourself. So you guys, you have to layer your cake. If you're just going to say you're a Sag, and you're not going to tell me that you're an 8th house Sagittarius, I won't know you. It's just not true. Sun sign astrology is so basic. And in my next video, I'm going to walk you through each house. But in this video, I want you to see how you can chunk out your houses with the Northern Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere, through the social aspects, through the quadrants, and through the different ways in which the houses work, where you don't need to know much. You can glance at a chart and you can see the motivations and the power inside of a soul. So I hope that you got something out of this. I hope that I can make astrology valuable to all people and that you can see it as an important tool. And if you don't know how to read your chart, go order a gorgeous, beautiful natal chart. I make the most beautiful charts, way prettier than this. I make them so easy to read. Like, you can't find this on the internet. You can go to Astrology and they're just not going to have a chart where you can read the cusps and you can read all the houses. And I also recommend that you order my deep dive, my natal deep report, because it goes so into the houses and the planets and the shape in which they operate. And it's just invaluable for you to know yourself and to know other people. And if you need a gift for somebody who just has everything, but yet you want them to deepen their knowledge about their true purpose and their true soul's calling in life, go buy my deep natal report and the chart. You will love it. They will love it. They'll get so much out of it. And I hope so much that this has helped you understand who you are and how to read your chart. I hope that you got a lot out of these houses and how they operate and how complex it is. But I want to break the complexity down to a simplicity so that all people can understand. It's my prayer that all people get to use astrology as a tool for self-empowerment and self-improvement. And I want you to fall in love with you, because you deserve it. From my house to yours, I wish you the very best. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I do these dailies. Go check me out at soul_navigation. I look forward to seeing you over there. Take good care. Bye for now.